Hey everyone, Coach Callie V with Coordinated Coaching, and today we're going to talk about the quickest way to kill an athlete's spirit. No, I'm not actually going to coach you on how to do that. I want to actually coach you, or at least help you, on how to not do that, how to avoid that from happening, okay? So, first red flag. This is how, at least in almost 22 years of coaching, I've been able to see, hey, I'm going to have almost what feels like an uphill, I don't want to say battle, but struggle, a little bit of a struggle with this kid, is they are not understanding me. I'm simply telling, I'm speaking to a group of 5 girls, and I'm speaking to them, and everybody gets up at 1, and then I see them off doing something totally different from what I said to do for the drill. I'm like, okay, something's off. How is this little girl's mind working? Okay, that should be your first question. Come on, guys, ladies, gents, whatever, coaches, you guys are the athletes. It's your job to coach this kid, but not just in the sport. And this is going to get thick on y'all, but you want to make sure that they take a piece of what you taught them, right, and apply it into their adult lives. Am I wrong? No, I'm not wrong. If that didn't strike a chord with you, then you're coaching for all the wrong reasons. You're coaching because you think it's your way or the highway, or your way is the best way. Get out the game. If you are not coaching these kids for the bigger picture of their lives, go. Bye, Felicia. All right, now that you're gone, now I'm going to speak to the coaches that really want to make a difference in these kids' lives. So you have an athlete who is just, I don't even want to use the term difficult. They're just challenging. And it's not even like they're challenging you on a negative content. They're just late to the party, on the struggle bus. They're just not getting it. Or here's a flip for you. Maybe they get it, and they get it like that. And everybody else around them is like, wow, they're so good. But then you hear somebody else come at them like, why don't you quit worrying about throwing heat and just throw a strike? Obviously, that coach has no idea what kind of player they got. Just going to put it out there. I'm going to be real, right? Like I said, it's about to get thick on y'all. Thick, okay? So the quickest way to kill an athlete's spirit is to coach them all exactly the same. Exactly the same. Coach them like you were taught in school, especially if you're in my generation, like later 30s, all through your 40s. Like, we were taught this same way in the classroom. And God forbid if you were a little slow because you got sent to the back of the bus, or you had to go sit in the principal's office because the teacher was not going to tell you the assignment again. How many have been in that situation as a little kid? Oh, I got my assignments and I did all my work. It just wasn't at the speed as my peers, okay? So let's take the athlete who's like ahead of everyone, okay? You have to look at the bigger picture of that athlete. Number one, it's always going to start with the daily activities of that athlete. What does their world look like? Are they struggling with something that they've been struggling with since they were, born? Since maybe 5, like it's a part of their everyday activity, and then softball or basketball or volleyball or track, rodeo, whatever athletic event that you're coaching, okay, that's also a part of their life. So you have to really sit back. Today's day and age, we're getting kids that are now finally, and I say finally because it's good to know what our kids are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, especially when it comes to their health, not just physically, but emotional health, spiritual health, okay? So here's the thing. If our kids are coming from broken homes, we need to know that as the coach. If mom and dad are in a huge dispute about custody and just all this crazy chaos, we have to know that, and we have to first and number one instill in those children that this field or this court or this track is their safe haven. This is where they get to be them, and they don't have to worry about all the drama, okay? Same thing with let's take a kid who might have ADHD, okay? And it's a medicated ADHD. They do have to take a pill every day or something to calm them down. They too need to understand that this field, this court, this track, whatever it is their safe haven, okay? Now, what about a kid who has a physical, altercation to what your norm is, okay? We've all seen the stories of the girls. I know I have. I've seen several stories of girls that play softball and their arm like stops right here. They're still playing ball. And what's the defining factor? That girl plays harder than everybody else. And, for the guy sitting back in the stands going, well, of course she has to, blah, blah. No. She does it because living with half that arm is a part of her every day. Being a softball athlete is a part of a life that she loves. Can a coach crush that? Oh, yeah. A coach could use that against them. Okay? So let's take, let me think of some more. Let's take diabetes, for instance. Whether it's type 1, type 2. I, in 22 years of coaching, have only experienced one diabetic, type 1. So they've had it since, they're born with it. Maybe diagnosed later. And then one type 2. And that's more of that can be genetic, it can be diet driven, but it usually shows up later. Okay? So, as a coach, how do you embrace that? Well, first of all, you don't coach that kid like you would coach the other kid who doesn't have diabetes. Now, I'm all about inclusion, right? I want everybody to be included. I want everybody to feel equal. But the truth of that foundation is everybody has something that makes them different. Okay? It's just, it is what it is, right? So, if you have an athlete who is already struggling and has already struggled with constant chaos in their life, oh my gosh, let me show you this book. If you haven't read this already, you need to read it because it's going to educate you guys as coaches. Okay? This is a great book to read. It literally proves the fact about genetic grit, like how certain lineage through generations can create a type of grit, like a no-quit attitude. Well, you're going to get that in an athlete, and then you're going to get the athlete that has diabetes. I mean, it's no wonder why that athlete looks more focused, more managed in a game than somebody else who doesn't have that. That's the edge that they have on all the other athletes, okay? One of the books that I like to read, it's actually beside my bed right now because I'm flipping through it again, Relentless. Another great book to read as a coach because it shows you how to coach a closer, how to coach a cleaner. Like, cleaners don't need a lot of coaching. You need to just let them go. Okay? Michael Jordan was a cleaner. He probably still is. But the conversations that were in this book that Jordan had with his teammates were very brutal. He called them out black and white, like, you better not bring your game, you better bring a game. Like, you got to get to my level. Like, Jordan only gave the ball to whomever he felt like needed a turn. And if they didn't perform, they never got the ball again. And then Jordan would just finish it out. Hence why he did what he did. Now you're thinking, well, where was his grit? Where did his grit come from? His grit probably came from a lot of his being raised. I'm sure he was raised with good morals, good values, good integrity. Okay? But I think his biggest, revolving, door opening moment was when he didn't make the high school basketball team. That was a slap in the face. And he didn't give up. Right? He didn't give up. And then look at what he did. Like, everybody knows the story. If you don't know the story, do your homework on MJ. It's pretty awesome. Okay? So, oh, this is awesome. Psychologists have spent decades searching for the secret of success, but Duckworth is the one who found it. That's on the cover of this book, and that's by Daniel Gilbert. He's the author of Stumbling on Happiness. I have not read that. So, if you haven't read the book, great, get it. Angela Duckworth. Get it and read it as a coach. Okay, so, first of all, if you want to kill an athlete's spirit, just coach them like everybody else. It's the quickest way. And it's the only way. There is no step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Because you implement all those steps as you continue to coach that athlete just like everybody else. Shame on you. But that's right. I'm speaking to the coaches that actually care. So you guys get this, right? And I'm willing to bet that you have been in a situation, because you're still here listening. You've been in a situation where you've had a kid who you literally would take it home and you would talk about this kid at dinner, like, man, I got this kid and I just don't, I talk to everybody as a team, and I can see this kid's wheels turning, but they're not just getting it. But then they go out and do this, and it's just like, wow, how did you, those are the kids that you have to kind of rewire things in your coach mind, and keeping the big picture always on the forefront, right? Because those kids are the kids that will do amazing things. They will actually be ahead of everybody else in their age group. They will rise to the occasion of pressure. They love pressure because they thrive in pressure, right? You got to think about those kids' lives. That's always the first place you look on how to coach a kid, is what are they dealing with every day? Okay, how can I get that kid to pull that every day and put it in their game? Does that make sense? You got it. Okay. So, instead of focusing on how to kill the spirit of an athlete, let's talk about how to improve that spirit. Okay? All right, so you have this amazing, phenomenal athlete who, we've all seen it, right? They're right here, their peers are here, and then by the time the peers get there, they're all leveled up, right? And you're like, okay, you start to see a light diminish. You get a little nervous because you're like, this kid could really go do some things in college. Doesn't matter if it's JC, D1, D2, doesn't matter. They're gonna go and they're gonna own it, right? But you start to see the edge kind of soften. They're not as sharp as they used to be. So what you have to do as a coach is you have to come in and remind them of who they are. You have to remind them, because they're kids. Do not forget that. They're kids. Heck, I have to be reminded of how awesome the things that I do, because half the time I can't even talk, see? Half the time I am my biggest critic. And if I feel like I can't get this done and this done and this done, and I failed this and failed that, I'm like, bah! And that's when, like, my husband, this is just God's timing, he just writes these little notes. And I literally keep them everywhere. I have like a little note in my purse, I have a little note in my planner, I have a little note on my desk, I have a little note on my cork board. They're just everywhere to remind myself, Cal, you got this. You're good, you're good, you're good. We have to do the same thing for those kids. Because now that they're getting older, what else is coming into their life? They've already got the constant, right? They already have the constant grind, which has given them that constant grit, okay? But they're also getting responsibility. Okay, now colleges are starting to look at these kids. So they're also, with the responsibility comes the pressure, right? Guys, I've had this conversation with my 15-year-old kid, and it is like, I'm mom, It takes a coach to get a kid to understand. It really does. It usually takes somebody else. You will understand it, like, after you're out of high school. You'll be like, oh, now I get it, Mom. Now I get it, Dad. Now I understand why you told me all these things. Coach was right. Of course Coach was right. Okay? So, They've softened up, responsibilities have jumped in, pressure is right there because they've got to keep their GPA up and they got to blah, 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 and they got to go do this, and then they go get this because they don't want to spend the money to go here, so they hire somebody to filter everything out and go to the ones that are like the one punch, one stopper show. Like, yes, you get my drift. There's all this pressure. That's where you as the coach have to come in. It is not an option. You have to come in and remind them, hey, don't forget who you are. Your life, the drama between your mom and dad, or the fact that you have diabetes, or the fact that you're ADHD, that doesn't define you. But it sure as heck is a big part of who you are. Because it's given you the grit to fight every single day, to where when you're in a normal fight on the field, on the court, on the track, it looks so managed. That's like a warrior technique, right? Like just woosah, like I got this every day. But when you start throwing in the responsibility, the pressure, that child, that teenager, they're gonna forget it. They're gonna forget just who they are. So coaches, if you want to avoid burning an athlete's light out, especially if your red flag is this kid is really hard to coach. I hate the term uncoachable, and I've actually seen athletes become uncoachable. Not through me, but I've seen other athletes around me that have became that way. I've seen former athletes of mine that have gone on to go be coached by other coaches, and they become uncoachable because they shut down. Because their coach continues to coach them like everybody else. You can't do that. You can't. You just can't. You have to have empathy as a coach. That does not make you a baby. That doesn't make you dropping down to their level. You know what? Guess what? You're human. That's right. I'm speaking to the coaches that care. You already know this. You already know this. Don't ever be ashamed to show another athlete, especially those kids that need to be reminded just how human you are. A little backstory on myself. My real daddy beat the crap out of all of us. Right? That's a lot of my grit. That's a lot of my grind. It is not who I am. But it helped me not only battle back in game-winning situations, but in life. A lot of people say, you dealt with that so well. How did you? Really? I did? I didn't even know this. Like, I just did. You just do it. Okay? And I don't think I was the easiest kid to coach. I think I was a difficult kid to coach. I met the coach that couldn't coach me was the last coach I ever had in my college career. He almost crushed everything in me. Everything. I was the only one that would raise their hand when they wanted to go on and play ball at D1, D2. Me. He wouldn't even look my way. I went on from being a starting pitcher my freshman year to pitching at least one game every doubleheader, if not finishing or starting the second, going to right or playing second, to literally pitching 6 games my sophomore year. I won 4 out of the 6. I had 1 at bat, coming from a .475 batting average my freshman year. My sophomore year, I had a 1 at bat on an accident. I hit a line drive so hard, and this was at, I think it was called the University of Miami, Oklahoma. Line drive so hard to shortstop, knocked her over. She caught it. Unfortunately, it was the 3rd out. When I got back in that dugout with that coach, you know what he told me? That was on me. That was all my fault. I forgot to sub you out. I forgot to have somebody hit for you. Gosh dang it. Why did I... This little light of mine just slowly burnt out. So, you got to understand, when I come at you guys as coaches and tell you guys don't do this, I'm not telling you this from my coaching experience. This actually comes from my playing experience. then my coaching experience. Especially when I see my athletes that are beast mode athletes get coached by somebody else, and I see what they endure, and that endurement doesn't add anything but stress. Not adversity, stress. Stress and defeat to their lives, to where they're like calling me, Coach, I don't know if I want to play anymore. Really? So you coaches that are still listening to this, you're the ones with the hearts. You're the ones with that big picture on the front, right? I need you guys to just keep doing what you're doing. Love them kids. Learn how to love them differently. It's just like being a parent. You can't parent all three of your kids the same. Maybe if you were in my generation, your parents tried and then their parents did, and we all know that we have some generational brokenness now because parents parented the way they were parented, you want to know why? Because it's what they knew to do. Well, here's the deal. Not only as a parent, but as a coach, that excuse is expired. We have so much technology, hence me being able to come through here and you being able to type it in and you being able to get it in your head, let alone read. If you don't want to read, listen. We have so many ways to get more information and be so much more than just a coach. The big picture, guys, ladies, gents, the big picture. That's what I'm talking about. Do not allow your athletes' lights to burn out. Their spirits need to burn. And if you at any time in your coaching career feel challenged by an athlete, number one, do not take it personal. If you take it personal, take a break. You need to just cut out of coaching for a while, because that kid could care less. Okay? Number two, you need to figure out what's going on in their lives. What have they had to deal with day in, day out? What has changed in their lives? Okay? Number three, create the safe haven. Explain to them that this is a place where they get to be themselves. No drama. No worrying about what this is going on with your blood sugars. No worrying about, did you take your medication for your ADHD? Just any example of anything like that. Okay? Number four, you need to love them. And you need to love them with unconditional love. That good old agape love. Hey! Yeah, see, if you don't know what that means, you need to research agape love. You're going to figure it out. But for me, faith-based, being a believer, that's the way God loves us. Right? God loves us without conditions. You know, people like to say, oh, but you could just keep screwing up and your God still loves you. That's the gray space in myself and God. And it's only between me and God, and them and God, and her and God, and him and God. I am not in that, right? That's the beauty in the relationship. Okay, I keep pointing out because people just get it. They're like, God's all around us. So, I hope you guys like this. I really hope you understand that this comes from a place of love. Because I'll be danged if I see another one of my athletes' lights burned out. I'm tired of it. And if you feel like you can't coach them anymore, I don't want to say better, just be the bigger person in the situation, which you should be because you're the coach, you're the adult, you're not the kid. And go talk to their parents and be like, hey, I really think it's time that your kid moves on to somebody else, because we're not working well anymore. And the more she's with me or he's with me, the more their passion for the game is going to thin out. We want to keep that passion thick, right? We do. We want to keep that love for the game. Thank you, motorcycle. That love for the game in their heart and coming out through everything they do. For some of you coaches that are still watching this, some of you have actually experienced this one-on-one and you actually were the bigger person. Or maybe you coached another person to make this decision. Okay? If you're still listening to this and you haven't reached that pure-hearted coach aspect of the big picture, but you're catching some of my words, and this is tugging at your heart, my call to action for you is take care of it before it's too late. Okay? The worst thing you can do as a coach is burn bridges, break hearts, and rip dreams apart. Oh, that's right, y'all. I used to flow. I'm just teasing. Okay, so I'm going to get off here, but that's just a little information on the quickest way to break an athlete's spirit, which we don't want to do. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. If you lasted this long, whole 25 minutes. Holy cow. Coach Callie got on the box today. What? I'll talk to you guys later. God bless.